Hello, my name is Allison Carmen, and welcome to my podcast, 10 Minutes to Less Suffering. And the name of today's podcast, To Will is Human, but to Surrender is Divine. And this idea came to me when I was listening to Guy Finley's class on Sunday. And Guy talks about how pain comes when life moves one way and our will insists it must move another. That clash between what is and what I demand, that is the birthplace of suffering. And one of the most simple examples of this is when we're in a car and you're going to be late because there's traffic. And you say, this shouldn't be happening. I must get there on time. People should drive better. And suddenly you're tense, you're angry, you're anxious. And that is pain. But if we release that demand, if we surrender and say, okay, this is what's happening, I can breathe here too. The situation hasn't changed, but the suffering is gone. There's so much of life where our will is going in one direction and reality is going in another. And that is when we end up in pain. So with this awareness, we could often make another choice. After I listened to his talk, I went through the day. And I saw a bunch of places where I was in pain. I expected a meeting to go one way, it went another way. And the minute I didn't allow my will to go in one direction and my reality in another, when I was willing to stay with what was, I would stay in the present, there was less suffering, there was no pain. And yet there are other times where something could happen that we're going to have pain. But because we know why we're in pain, at least it gives us a road back. And a good example would be this last week. I found out that my mother has breast cancer again, and it's treatable. But when I found out, I was in pain because I didn't want it to be true. And then when my mother found out, that was another pain, to watch someone you love suffer. So I was very aware that my will was going one way and reality was going another. I did, though, have the idea of maybe, and I knew life was uncertain and I didn't know it was going to happen. Every moment has hope, and this can go so many different ways. And I thought that was a really interesting observation, that where we fall into pain, because we could be in pain about our past when we have regret. We could be in pain in the moment when something's happening, and we could be even in more pain if we take it into the future. And as I learned more and more about what was going on with my mom, the next day, we got a more detailed diagnosis. And a couple of days later, we were at the doctor. And as that's happening, I found my will and reality merging into the present. That she's going to go for an operation next week, and they're going to give her a pill. And it's very curable. She's 90, so it's a big deal. But the pain has shifted. I'm not happy about this. I know my mother's going to have suffering, and I'm going to feel it in my heart. But this awareness constantly brings me back to the moment. And I see there are times when I could be one with everything. And there are times that we love people so deeply, and there are things in our lives that are so important that we're going to go move off this. And that's okay, because we have our practices. We have our practices because we know where pain comes from. I'm in pain because I'm resisting the moment. But our feelings are intense and our heart is hurting. But that awareness will bring us back home when it's time. And our relationship with uncertainty, to know things change, to know that there are possibilities, to know that no one knows. It's very hard to throw that pain into the future fully. And I have to say, that's often what we do. We take the moment that we don't like and we can't imagine it changing. So our pain becomes even deeper because we say, this is going to be the rest of my life. I'm never going to find happiness. I'm never going to find renewal. I'm never going to find good health. And that pain is so deep, to sit in the moment and think you're doomed is almost unbearable. And even if your maybe or your presence is about the day or the next day after that, uncertainty really can lift us up. And the third interesting piece, that sometimes when it's not easy to let go of a situation, It takes something deeper than a thought. It takes surrender. And one of the best things that Guy Finley said in this talk was, to will is human, but to surrender is divine. And I'm paraphrasing him, but what he said is surrender doesn't mean giving up. It doesn't mean pretending we don't care. It means participating in a greater will than our own. It's the recognition that life is always moving, always renewing, and that our role is to let ourselves be reshaped by that moment. He also says that even a feeling of loss can lead to an experience of renewal. Full surrender, not for the only reason that you can't bear it, but because you're seeing that your will is causing you pain. And you're seeing that all these things are happening that are beyond your control. And so you do the best you can. And the surrender is to give it over to life itself. And it's not that you don't make decisions along the way, but as you're moving, you feel that you are just being carried and you have no idea where it's going to lead. But in that letting go, there's a reshaping of you. There's a polishing of you. There's a breaking and putting back together of you, but a wiser you, and a more humbled you, and a kinder you, and a loving you. And that's pure surrender. And when we're in pure surrender, we're in less pain because we're flowing where life is taking us. Maybe is a surrender. If you think about it, it's a surrender to the unknown. So if we're able to let go of the past and do our best in the moment to constantly think about, where's my will? Where is life going? How could I surrender? And I could say in my life that the more I've been able to surrender, the more I've been able to create and transform from within. Sometimes I could even feel myself shutting down in my bed, and I'll actually lay there and I'll just think about my heart, and I'll say, Allison, release, let go, be available to where life is taking you. And I feel this opening and this surrender, and this peace comes over me. Because sometimes I think we're not realizing how we're holding things. We don't think we're thinking about the future, but we are. A lot of our negativity is much bigger than the moment. Because when we're negative, we're really thinking things aren't going to change. And again, the maybe practice. When I constantly do the maybe practice, I'm surrendering. Surrendering my negative thought to the infinite. Surrendering my fear to the infinite. Surrendering all I know for what I don't know. Knowing that there's so much more than my mind could even comprehend. So if we were going to sum this up into like an exercise, we can notice the resistance. When we feel stress, we can ask, what is my will demanding right now? We can remember that our pain comes from our will, not from our lives. That our lives are not against us. It's always moving us towards renewal. And it's okay when our will kicks in, because there are things that happen in life that we don't like or that are too painful. And so we work towards resolution, but at the same time, non-resistance and letting go and surrender will enable us to keep moving forward, but freeing ourselves at the same time. And that surrender, if you can do it with more ease and less out of frustration and more within a breath and saying, let it be as it is. You make space for something greater to move through you. And then the cherry on top is the maybe, the ultimate surrender, all that we don't know, the promise of change, the essence of hope, knowing that wisdom is on its way, that you will find a way forward, that life will change, that possibilities will arise, because for all you know, maybe the best is yet to come. Thank you for listening to this podcast today. If you'd like to get in touch with me, you could email me at allison@allisoncarmen.com. If you'd like to buy my books, The Gift of Maybe, A Year Without Men, Maybe Everything's Okay, A Parent's Guide to Less Stress and Worry. You can find them at all major bookstores and online retailers. If you'd like to buy my Maybe cards or my Maybe digital journal, they're available on Etsy and my Stan store. And most of all, if you like this podcast, I hope you subscribe and leave a comment.